wonder what that journey was for you that kind of led you one step at a time to claim who you are.
Often as women, we hold this idea that we have to be perfect, that we have to figure it all out before we can take an action, that we have to nurture other people. And so much of the work is helping us see the agreements that we've created that limit us. And like the first lesson in Warrior Goddess training is commit to you, to really look at where have we as women committed to helping everyone else or being small to be safe or not really following through on our dreams, and how do we really claim our commitment to ourselves
Yeah.
and follow through on our dreams and visions and what we're here to do, what our light is here to bring into the world.
Welcome to the Angels and Awakening podcast, where we connect you with your angels, loved ones, and soul self. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancius. My journey began when I started hearing my late father before I knew he'd passed. Through my readings, membership, and Angel Reiki School, I help you awaken, heal, and master your unique spiritual gifts. If you feel called to work with me, it's your angels guiding you to discover your soul's highest purpose. Details at theangelmedium.com. Thank you, Earth Angels, for the 5-star reviews. You're entered into a drawing to win a free session. Now, let's see what messages your angels have for you today. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Angels and Awakening podcast. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancius. And friends, I'm here with an author today. I have 3 of her books already sitting on my shelves. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm showing them to you right now. She's a woman who I'm sure that if you listen to this podcast, you know that there are some authors who just keep things very, very soulful. And they have this way with their words of taking your experience of life very deep, taking you very, very deep within yourselves. And HeatherAsh Amara is one of those people who I always love reading what you're working on because you go so deep and just the energy of the words makes me feel this very high vibrational energy. Thank you for being here, Heather Ash.
You're so welcome, Julie. It's so delightful to get to be with you today.
Yay! And we're actually in the same city. You're doing a book tour
No,
right now. So you're going all over. You're in Chicago today as we're interviewing. You have a new book though, Wild, Willing, and Wise, which kind of goes back to the maiden, mother, crone archetypes. Yeah. So I'm excited to dive into everything with you today. But can you tell us about your new book and what the inspiration is and where you're taking us as readers?
yes, absolutely. So the subtitle of the book is an interactive guide of when to paddle, when to rest, and when to jump naked into the river of life. It's so fun. And it's really, this is my 9th book. And I just decided as we were going through the pandemic that we were on the other side, we were going to need something. I knew I need something that was light but deep, that would help us find balance again. And so the book works with 3 archetypes. And I was inspired, as you said, by Maiden, Mother, Crone, and sort of studying those 3 energies more. And what I wanted to do is get to the core of those energies and and craft something that was gender neutral and that also wasn't linear. Because there's some ways that we think of maiden is like when you're young, and then mother is when you're in, the middle of your life, and then crone is when you're older. And I wanted to create something circular. So the book is about wild, which is our creativity and our curiosity and that like, yay, let's try. And then willing is the, okay, we got to get steady. We need to grow something. We need to be in for the long haul. And there's a sustainable, generative, nourishing energy when we tap into our willing in a balanced way. And then wise is our connection to the divine, our connection to our compassion, to calm, to really having the longest view possible. So those are the three energies that I talk about and we explore in the workbook.
So for people who don't know, what and everybody kind of has a slightly different take. What are the archetypes and what is I've looked at them before, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Maiden, mother, crone.
They're connected with the moon cycles, and that the maiden energy is new moon, is new beginnings, is things coming into their fullness. And I think about that's the wild energy, and that there's exploratory, and like it's also connected to spring, like all the new things are starting. And then with the mother, and I always think about the mother energy is we're mothering not only children, but books, but our spiritual path, but our relationships. And that's the willing. And that's really about intimacy with ourselves and learning how to be intimate with others and to sustain and nourish our relationship. And then the crone energy, and that's the full moon. So the mother's usually connected to the full moon. And then the waning moon is the crone energy. And I connect that with wisdom. And that crone is when we've had many life experiences that we've digested and that we have wisdom to share. And that there's a great story I read about grandmothers. I'll just share this really quick because it's such a great crone story. That there's a woman that did a study to find out why are grandmothers important, because we so often in our culture don't give reverence to being elder women, especially to that crone energy. And what she discovered is that what she thought originally was that grandmothers are important because they feed their grandchildren, like they give extra care to their grandchildren. But what they actually found was true is that those grandmothers feed anyone in their village that needs extra nurturing love. So they're seeing the biggest picture of village.
Yeah.
And that's what the crone energy, that wise energy, is about.
Wow. It's so wild. Like my brain is so ADHD that when I hear so many different maiden, mother, crone, I get so confused. But I love the three W's and the way that you've interpreted this energy because it's so much easier for me to just instantaneously remember wild, willing, wise. And you said, when do we rest in life? When do we paddle? Kind of work towards something. And when do we just jump in? Did you say jump in and swim naked?
Jump naked into the river of life.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's so true because if you think about it in terms of that rest, paddle, or, just jump in, do it and swim, there's so much energy in that. And you talk about, becoming the woman that you're meant to be in warrior goddess training. You've got warrior goddess way, claiming the woman you are destined to be. And I wanted to kind of take the listeners back because I think as women in our society, too often we put this pressure upon ourselves. Like we have to have it all figured out. We have to know. We have to instantaneously just get messages from the universe and know exactly what it is and follow. But I think all of the creators that I've had this huge blessing of just getting to spend time with and interview, the common theme among all of them is that it doesn't happen fast, it doesn't happen quick, but that you keep following this alignment within yourself, just one step at a time forward. And so I wonder what that journey was for you that kind of led you one step at a time to claim who you are.
Definitely been a long journey. So I was raised in Southeast Asia and traveled around the world with my family as a kid. And so I had this really diverse, incredible childhood. And when I came to the United States to go to college, I felt really disconnected. And I had this sense of like, something's not right. I couldn't name it, but I felt it in my body. And when I started studying different spiritual traditions, I was like, oh, that's what I'm missing. Asia has a very rich spiritual heritage, and like it's just in people's bodies and how they connect, deep family, deep intimacy. And I felt that I had lost that somehow, or I didn't have that. And so that was really the beginning of my journey. And I started studying different earth based traditions and getting in touch with the seasons and the cycles and honoring the beginnings and endings and the moon cycles and the seas. It was such a huge homecoming for me. And then I just started sharing. I was like, I have to share this with people. And so that was, you know, I was 21 when I started teaching. And I've just been doing it ever since to really support mostly women. I work with all genders, but really mostly women, because as you said, often as women, we hold this idea that we have to be perfect, that we have to figure it all out before we can take an action, that we have to nurture other people. And so much of the work is helping us see the agreements that we've created that limit us. And like the first lesson in warrior goddess training is commit to you, to really look at where have we as women committed to helping everyone else or being small to be safe or not really following through on our dreams. And how do we really claim our commitment to ourselves
Yeah.
and follow through on our dreams and visions and what we're here to do, what our light is here to bring into the world.
I want to dive into that, how we keep ourselves small, how we just kind of don't even sometimes tune into our own dreams. But first, I'm just really, really curious. In Southeast Asia that you said you were talking about, where there's just that natural spirituality, what is that like? What is that experience like?
Well, I remember as when I was 7 years old. Here's a story that really sparked me. But when I was 7, we lived in Hong Kong, and I remember driving on the bus, being in the bus to school, and there'd be people in the park doing Tai Chi or praying to rock or like communing with trees. And I didn't have language for that. I was just like, oh, yeah, there's this natural connection we have with the natural world. And when I was yeah, I was also 7. We went to India with my family, and we traveled all over India. And I remember I was holding my dad's hand and we were walking down the street. And what I was worried about was my shoes. Like that's where my consciousness was. I was like, my shoes are going to get dirty because everything was so dirty. And I remember looking up, and there was about a 7 year old girl walking towards me, dressed in rags. She had really long black hair. And as we're walking towards each other, these two very different worlds, our eyes connected. And everything melted, and I just fell in love. And I felt her fall in love. And there was this moment where we saw each other, and I really got in my body. There's no separation. We may look different, but we're all spirit, we're all light, we're all connected in a really deep way. And then we passed. And
Wow.
so
It's almost like
that
seeing
sparked.
another part of your soul.
Totally. It was exactly like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I was just talking about this in my membership last night, where I used to think to myself, well, if you have seven self-limiting beliefs, you just work through them and then you don't have them anymore. And then you just go on with your life. And, you know, years and years and years later, you're like, oh, okay. Those never truly go away, but we keep pulling back layer after layer after layer. But there is a point that you get to. I was telling again my members last night where I was like, 40s are feeling really good of I'm confident. I've been following my path. It feels like every ounce of my heart and soul to do this work. I feel like I just radiate love and love getting to do the work that I do, that I have a confidence now that I didn't have in my 30s, where I used to always worry, am I going to be okay? Like what was I worried about? Like the worst thing that could possibly happen, I don't know, in my mind might have been that I was going to be out on the streets and homeless one day. What's the word? And it's never going to happen, right? Like you're going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. It's just this trust and this confidence in yourself. Do you still have self-limiting beliefs that you're peeling back even though you've been doing this for
I
years?
agree that it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I'm in my 50s and it just gets better.
Yay.
And it does. It just gets better. And I think there's also that understanding that there isn't, like linear thinking is if I just do this
Yeah.
and this and this, if I just clear the belief out, then I will get to the goal and I'll be happy and like never suffer again or never have fear. And we're human. We're going to have emotions. There's going to be challenges. And I always think that on our journey that we can learn that part of the power of being human is that we can set intent for things that we want to manifest and create in our lives. And that's planting a seed in the universe and being like, hey, universe, I'd like to be more loving, or I'd love to, feel more confident, or whatever that is, whether it's a physical manifestation or something that we want to feel inside. And as you know, there's beauty that happens, there's synchronicities, there's guides that show up, there's people, there's all this wonderful thing that starts falling into alignment. But what also happens is obstacles show up. And the obstacles are not, we don't want to live an obstacle free life. Like
Yeah.
the illusion is, I want an obstacle free life. I want it to be easy, but we don't really.
Yeah.
That would be so boring. We want to live a life when an obstacle arises that we're like, hi, you are a worthy obstacle. I'm ready. Because your obstacles actually help you raise energy and get more clear and let go of the agreements. Because the obstacle is just mirroring back something that needs to get cleaned up or moved around. And so now I just know obstacles are going to show up. I'm going to then look inside to see what's coming out of me. Am I delighted? Am I scared? Is there an agreement? And what I've found is that I get more and more compassionate with myself and others in
Mm.
the process. And that there isn't an expectation of nothing bad will ever happen, but there's more a trust of like, I will navigate and be present with whatever arises. If there's grief, if there's loss, if there's fear, that I will show up with it. And I think as we get older, hopefully we stop abandoning ourselves so much.
Exciting news, friends! Our all new membership kicks off January 1st, and I couldn't be more thrilled to invite you to join us. This year, we've simplified everything with 12 powerful courses designed to help you connect with your angels, take control of your destiny, and use your intuitive gifts to transform your entire personal world, your relationship, professional successes, your healing journey. Plus, you'll get live weekly calls with me for hands on guidance and support. Bonus for members, my January course, Manifest Miracles with Aligned Co Creation, is free for you. Perfect for starting off 2025 with aligned miracles. Non members can grab one of the limited paid spots. And for those looking to start their own healing business, join the Angel Reiki School in person this April or start your journey online January 1st. You're going to learn mediumship, how to be an angel messenger, and energy healing all at once. And as a gift to everyone who listens to this podcast, on December 30th at 7 p.m. Central Time, I'm holding a free healing for you to clear out all of the energy from 2024 and really clear out what's not serving you. And then again on January 1st at noon Central Time, I'm hosting a free 2-hour workshop where you're going to learn how to invite miracles into your 2025 and make this your best year yet. If you're ready to step into a miraculous 2025, sign up for all of this and more at theangelmedium.com/events. That's theangelmedium.com/events. Or email me at julie@theangelmedium.com for more information. I can't wait to spend all of 2025 with you in the Angel membership. Love you, friends. Now back to the show. There are those who, I had Dr. Daniel Lieberman on once, and he talked about how people have a different chemical within their brain, and if people have more of this chemical, they are more ADHD and more kinda like jump in naked and just go swim, and then there's people with another chemical that have more of that self-doubt and are gonna hem and haw longer. And I wonder for those people who just keep spinning with an idea, right? Like they know something is calling to their hearts, they know it's in alignment with them, they have this dream, but they're just not taking the first step on it. How do you help those folks break through to take that initial step? Maybe not a leap, but just like that first step.
So I see that with all of us, we can get out of balance with our wild, our willing, and our wise. So you can have a deficiency of wild or an excess of wild, a deficiency of willing or an excess of willing. As part of what I love the book so much is it's super simple way to like look at ourselves and be like, oh, I need a little bit more wild in my life, right? And so somebody who's procrastinating or holding themselves back probably has deficient wild and deficient willing.
Okay.
So they're scared, they're wanting to stay safe, and are in resistance in some way. And we all have patterns for different reasons. There's agreements that cause us to be like, the other side is like, I'm just gonna do it, it doesn't matter, where we don't think anything through, we just jump. Or excess willing, we're caretaking everybody and trying to fix everything. So on that end of the deficiency, it's really about little bitty baby steps and being willing, like okay, what am I willing to do? What would be a little baby step that I could take? And it doesn't have to be the right one. Instead of I have to do it right or I have to figure it out, just okay, for the next week, once a day, I'm going to send an email around something like super simple. And that if we have a hard time doing that, that we then get support, that we find a community or we find a girlfriend or we find somebody who that we can say. I used to use when I first started writing, is that I didn't know how to get myself in. And so I made a contract with a friend, super simple. And the contract was, we literally wrote it out, was that I would write for, I think, 15 minutes every day. And that when I was finished writing, I would text her and say, done. And
Wow.
that if she hadn't heard from me, yeah, it was so simple. If she hadn't heard from me by like 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock or something, she would just say, hello.
Amazing.
And it was just enough of a support system and a great experiment for me to run to find what I needed to get myself in. And that changed
Wow.
my relationship to my writing.
Well, I think that that would change everybody's relationship to life if we stopped looking at like we have to be right or wrong. I was in this writer group a couple of years ago and they made us go in and look at um reviews that other people have gotten on their books, and there's always gonna be critics, right? In everything. And there's so many people that would say, "Didn't get anything out of this book," and I was like, "Oh my god, but that's a book that I love, and I got so much out of it," that we're all so vastly different, and what works for one person doesn't work for another. And to your point before, the objective isn't to get it right, to get it complete, and live a life of no obstacles. But if we all looked at life as, okay, we're just going to do some experiments here and see what works and what doesn't, test some things, so see what we're in alignment with, what we're really not in alignment with, we really kind of, it feels like an energy of like swimming through life, start swimming.
Yeah, exactly. And the understanding, I love the metaphor of the river, which is all throughout the book, because sometimes the waters are calm. And when the waters of life are calm, like we want to rest, we want to look at the beauty around us, we want to take it in. And then sometimes it's really rocky, it's really, churning water and it feels really scary. And in those times, we can get more skillful at learning to navigate. And we're going to get dumped over. We're going to end up in the river sometimes. We're going to lose our boats. And we can learn when we recognize, instead of I just have to paddle all the time and it'll work, or I'm going to paddle upstream and I'll make it happen. Or we pull our boat out of the shore and are like, I'm not getting in. It's way too scary. That we can start to be honest with ourselves where we are in relationship with the river, and then learn skills and run experiments and be like, okay, that rapid seems really scary, but what if I stayed calm this time through it? Or what if I learned the skill beforehand? Because I know, I mean, so often the agreements we have, it's not like we make up new agreements,
Yeah.
right? We have the same agreements that we've had since childhood that we're navigating. So when we're honest with ourselves and we're more intimate with ourselves, like, I know that I'm always going to be navigating on some level, wanting everyone to like me. It's
Mm-hmm.
just part of what I came in with. I'm a Libra. I'm like, I just want everyone to get along and it all to be beautiful. And so I'll laugh at myself sometimes. I'll get in conflict or someone will be upset with me and I'll be like, okay, sweetie, they get to be mad at you. They get to hate you. They get to not like you. They get to not, not want to be your friend. They get to. And can you just paddle through this? And it's gotten easier.
Yeah. So you are a person who's just a natural teacher. I think it's just one of your spiritual gifts. And I wonder, there's so many tools out there, experiments to try. What are the tools and the experiments that have just worked the best or that you've had the most success with to bring you back home to yourself?
There's a couple really simple ones. One is when I feel out of balance, I'll put my hands on my body. I'll put my hands on my heart, my hands on my belly, and I'll talk to myself, either in my head or out loud, and just be like, "Hi, sweetheart. Okay, what do you need? What's going on?" And I just wrote a Substack about this. I had a big challenge where a tire blew. I'm on 2 month tour right now in my Airstream, and 30 minutes from home, the tire on my Airstream blew, which is a big trailer. And I pulled over and I had an hour to get to the first book event. And I'm on the side of a freeway with a really blown out tire. And I had to back the trailer up in the freeway. Anyway, it was a big obstacle. And I got really quiet. And I was like, Lee, we can do this. You can do this. I have faith in you. And I have a nickname for myself that I only use when I am like, when it's a hard thing. So I really recommend people like put your hands on your body, talk to yourself, and pick a sweet nickname for yourself that you use when it's really hard. That's just cue of like, come back, honey. Right
Yeah.
now. We got something hard to do. We can do this. It's really helpful. We
Oh,
can do this.
I love this. So what are some of the biggest self-limiting beliefs that you see with the clients that you work with? And what are some of like the ways or aha moments that they've had to kind of find their way through?
Such a good question. So I've seen that there's three main beliefs that we as humans tend to lean into. I see this a lot with the folks I'm working with is I'm broken, I'm not lovable, and I'm not enough. And they kind of mix around, but when you kind of boil all of us down into what are the cores, those are really, really deep in many of us. And to be able to start to see what I love about the work I get to do is I get to work with women and have them start sharing their experiences and their stories. And we start to realize, oh, we're all very similar. When we just believe we're broken and don't talk to other people about it, then you can't heal it. But the moment that you start to talk, like say, yes, I feel this way, and somebody else says, oh, I feel that way too. And what I help people do is see that those beliefs aren't true. We're in this dream, we're in this place that we've been trained and domesticated is the way that you call it, domesticated to think that there's something wrong with us and that we have to change to fit in. And when we start to understand, oh, I learned to be this way, my soul, my light does not come in like, I'm broken. But our personalities and what we learn from the people around us, we're trained.
Yeah.
And which means the good news is we can untrain ourselves. We can domesticate ourselves out of love rather than, and reparent and love ourselves out of love rather than out of fear, which is what most of us are navigating, is domestication from fear and reward and punishment. And
Yeah.
we're in a big paradigm shift right now. And we see that internally, and we also see it around us as well.
Friends, I'm pausing for 30 seconds because I love, love, love connecting with you and I want to connect with you more. Got a question? Let me answer it for you on the podcast. The link to submit your questions is in the show notes. Also, we need your angel stories. Share your angel stories at theangelmedium.com/contact. And last but not least, leave a 5-star review and you could win a free 20-minute session. Last year, I did 56 free readings for review winners. All links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening. Now, back to the show. Can we do some work together?
Mm-hmm.
The I'm not enough really struck home. How do you work through the I'm not enough?
Okay, let me feel into what would be the best, because there's so many ways in, right?
I
And
could tell you like childhood stuff. I
yeah,
don't know. And it's just so deep seated, right? Like I think everybody around me who I know and my local community would be like, "Oh my god, why do you feel that way?" But
way.
it doesn't feel ever like anything that I do is enough. I feel so full with joy and like full of life, and I love living life. But there's always a part of you that just feels like you're not enough, not a good enough wife, not a good enough mom, um, not a good enough friend. And I don't know, I had all, like, the normal childhood stuff, parents divorced, dad cheated, caught him cheating, and, I have some deep-seated memories, like my dad getting into the car of Catholic school, and we'd gotten our report cards, and he's like, "Hand me your report card." I didn't even think it was a big deal, it wasn't on my radar, and he goes, "You got a C in math," and he goes, "I'm really disappointed in you." And as an adult, I started to see my daughter struggle in math in 5th grade, and I recognized that she just needed some support outside of the classroom. So we got her a tutor. She's had a tutor like all throughout middle school. She's doing great. She's rocking and rolling at it. But I got into high school and I thought I was just stupid in math because I never got that extra help. And so, um, now I'm kind of at a point in my career where I'm so blessed. I really have done so much that I set out to do, and I have some bigger dreams of um getting the message out to a larger audience and making the radio show even bigger and if we can getting a TV show out there about angels to just kind of bring angels back into the world. Um but it still feels like it did when I was in high school, like other people can be successful authors. That's not me. Or other people like can get these things done. That's not me. Why do we do this to ourselves? Like, why do we why is it so hard? Like I've done over 500 interviews for this podcast and oh, it's still there.
There's um can't remember her name right now. It'll come to me, but she wrote a book called Lean In, and she was the COO of Facebook, of a little company called Facebook, and Sheryl Sandberg. And she did interviewed a bunch of women who were part of Fortune 50 companies, so the top 50 companies. And every single woman she interviewed felt like a fraud.
Wow. No way.
Yeah. Why? Why? So think about this. I started teaching this when I first started teaching Warrior Goddess about 120 years ago, right? Women in the United States got the right to vote. And that was white women. Women of color didn't really get the right to vote till the 60s. So that's in my lifetime.
Mhm.
And not too many generations back. So within our great grandmothers, we couldn't own property, we couldn't vote, we couldn't have credit.
Mhm.
That energetic and women were thought of as second class citizens and not important, right? Not as valuable as men. That energetic just gets passed down. It
Yeah.
gets passed down through the female line. And they're now finding there's something called epigenetics that trauma and belief systems get passed down through our DNA. But we can also change them, but it needs to be done consciously. And so there's what I think of as these lineage beliefs that when we start to recognize, oh, this isn't me, this is how we've been trained again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're in the process of undoing that. And it's probably not going to happen in our lifetime, but it might happen for the kid, like the girls that are coming in. It's going to start to shift more and more and more. And we're like the in between generations, so
Oh.
it takes 100 years, right? Let's just say it takes 100 years to undo thousands of years of patriarchy.
Mhm.
All right. So having that bigger picture, then what I like to do, I have a practice that I call the warrior heart practice, and I talk about it in the new book, in Wild, Willing, and Wise, that often what we do when we have old agreements like I'm not enough, and we take them personally, like this is mine, what happens is that we don't catch it. We're just living it. And we also spend a tremendous amount of time avoiding that feeling
Mhm.
or doing what I call exiting. So the moment we start feeling like I'm not enough, it's like, oh, well, I'll just work harder, or I'll prove it in some way, or I'll compare myself to somebody else and feel bad about it, and then feel reason, see, I am not good enough. Now I have evidence. And so there's something incredibly powerful about this practice, which is super simple. It has 4 chambers. And the first chamber is what I call the feeling chamber. And it's about our willingness to just feel what we're feeling.
Mhm.
So that the moment like I'm not enough arises, instead of trying to overcome that or like defend against that, to just be
Mhm.
like, okay, let's feel this.
Mhm. And I
I'm
don't think
not
that
enough.
that is something that my mom or my grandma knew how to do at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were doing their best. They had way less
Absolutely.
tools than we did. Yeah. And,
Absolutely.
and so part of the healing is like, can we just sit with, I don't feel like I'm enough, and just be with it without any story. And that's where the healing happens. Is I really teach people how to separate a feeling from the story about the feeling. The
Mm.
feeling is in the body,
Mhm.
and we can start to track. I feel not good enough. I feel scared. I feel insecure, and then breathe into whatever that is and just be with ourselves without trying to defend or change or justify, but just like this is what the feeling is.
Yeah.
And then we can get curious about what's the story that I've made up about this feeling.
Mm.
And so
Mhm.
often the story is like, I have to be perfect. I have to prove to everybody that I'm okay. I have to be better than everybody else, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, and then start excavating the story that we're telling ourselves. And that excavation process of going deep into the story, so often we have really interesting experiences when we're young where we tie things together in a big knots. And when we bring our awareness to just looking at the story, those knots can start to undo themselves.
Friends, I'm pausing for 30 seconds because I love, love, love connecting with you and I want to connect with you more. Got a question? Let me answer it for you on the podcast. The link to submit your questions is in the show notes. Also, we need your angel stories. Share your angel stories at theangelmedium.com/contact. And last but not least, leave a 5-star review and you could win a free 20-minute session. Last year, I did 56 free readings for review winners. All links are in the show notes. Thank you for listening. Now, back to the show. That's interesting because I've been trying to understand this lately and asking spirit, but I don't have an answer to this yet. Why is it that as we go through like all these millions of seconds of life that some are just more that they hit you like that moment in the car with my dad, and I remember that, and I remember some really great moments too, but why is it that we remember certain threads so poignantly?
Like we can talk about this for years, right? So one of the work that I did, I worked with Don Miguel Ruiz, who is the author of the Four Agreements, for years, and he taught us something called Toltec cosmology, and it helped me understand that question because part of it is that what I believe is we have what's called a big soul and a little soul, and the big soul is the part of us that's connected to eternity, the divine, that travels from lifetime to lifetime. And then we each have our personality, our little soul that is about a separation and that also gets disconnected very easily from the big soul. So when we're little, those parts are connected. I mean, you see that in little kids, they're like joyful and connected and happy. But at some point, we start learning agreement, like you just talked about, right? You got to see, and then there's a whole amount of agreements that come out of that. But probably you had had previous experiences that had that same frequency. We carry these resonances. So what I believe is we can carry these resonances from lifetime to lifetime, and every lifetime.
Mhm.
And if you don't clean them up in the previous lifetime, it's not punishment. It's just that didn't get cleaned up. It's going to get carried, and that particular resonance will pull in particular experiences. So somebody that doesn't have the resonance of I'm not doing it right or I'm not doing enough would have been like, yeah, I got to see, who cares? I
Mhm.
need, right? But if we have a resonance of like, oh, that's a bad thing and I'm not enough, we'll grab those experiences and use them against ourselves.
Wow, that's so crazy. It is. But you've just answered a huge, huge question because Spirit's been saying, like, there's part of your soul that's perfect, one with all that is. And then there's another part of your soul that's expanding, just it's always ever expanding. And I was like, well, how can those two things be truth at once? And they're like, it is. But I love this big soul and little soul because it's a perfect explanation of that. Are there any Toltec writings or any books out there that talk about that too, the big soul, little soul concept?
Yeah, in my book before Wild Willing Wise, which is called Warrior Heart Practice,
Yeah.
I talk about that in the beginning.
Okay.
And there's maps and like drawings and yeah, it's really an amazing practice to to just see that we're untangling things across timelines
Mhm.
from our ancestors and also from our own personal journey from lifetime to lifetime. And that then it for me, what happened when I really understood this in my body was like, oh, what a gift that I have enough awareness in this lifetime and enough support and safety to be able to untangle this to the next level. And I may not untangle it all the way, that's not the point, but how can I bring more love to create more spaciousness in my life so that this resonance gets cleaned up as much as possible?
Yeah.
And then it's joyful, then it becomes like, instead of I have to fix myself, like what a gift that I get to entangle this next layer.
Well, and it ties into what you said before, and I just want to make space for that because when you said, okay, we are most likely right now in this middle part where we are untangling right now for the future generations so that they don't have to hold on to this trauma. I just got like a flood of visions coming in because it's so true. And I think our daughters are, we're helping them to untangle a lot right now as we're raising them very, very differently from how we were raised. Um, but they get the gift of getting to untangle it further and getting to take it to a whole nother level and our granddaughters to a whole nother level, which will be so beautiful to get to see in our lifetimes.
Exactly. And I love the way that you said that 'cause it's so true. Like we get to work on our tangles, they get to work on theirs. And I've seen so many mothers that are like, I raised my kid wrong, or like, I got to help her untangle. And it's like, no, actually, you need to love her
Yeah.
fiercely and model. I have a goddaughter that's living with me right now, and it's been so delightful. She's in her early 20s for us to like be in a different relationship with each other where I'm modeling to her unconditional love and boundaries, like making boundaries, but from love, for her to get that in her body and get rewired. And I'm doing my own untangling. And then I trust she'll do her work as well.
Yeah.
And so even those of us that aren't mothers, like I am so grateful to just by the cleaning I'm doing, I know, and it's true for all of us, as we clean our own channel, that light goes out and gives people the opportunity, even that we never talk to, just from feeling our energy, the possibility of what it's like to have more spaciousness and more connection and more compassion. So
Yeah.
we're all modeling that for the future.
It's interesting. There's so many people who say, and I believe this to be true, that the divine feminine energies within the world are rising to meet the divine masculine energies within the world and kind of balance each other out. And sometimes it's easy to think, well, what does that mean? But you just explained it. And I wonder if there's anything else that you would add to kind of that shift that's happening within the world right now.
Yeah. We've been under a system around the world of patriarchy, which basically says men are more important and powerful than women. And also what's woven, and this, it harms everybody. This is not men or women are better, men are worse, whatever. And I don't believe like now we need matriarchy. I don't believe that at all. We need coming together and realizing that we're all equal in different ways, and that's why I love warrior goddess training. Like I like taking it out of the masculine feminine. We all have warrior energy, we all have goddess energy. You can label it however, but we all have that like focus, clarity, warrior. And then the goddess is like the opening and the flow and the creativity. And same with wild, willing, and wise. They're gender neutral. And I love right now, like part of what's happening with the kids that are coming in and exploring gender and running experiments, and like one day being like, I'm going to present more masculine, and the next day I'm going to present more feminine, is it's getting broken apart. They're on the leading edge of starting to break, or continuing, not starting, continuing to break down the gender roles that have been very, very rigid. And it's destabilizing when it's happening, but it's also incredibly important so that we can get back to, we each get to find what's our unique expression, and to have the freedom to do that in our own way. And it's just a really exciting time right now. And the balance comes by honoring each person's expression.
While you were talking, I just got this great visual of, on the other side, there is no gender whatsoever of our souls. We're just
Yeah,
completely genderless. And so I don't know if you would call it like gender here is it's not a self limiting belief. What is it? Like we just kind of pigeonholed ourselves into
yeah,
this way of thinking. And it's something that we're untangling as well because the gender isn't what's important, it's what the soul wants to do, the experiences that the soul wants to have in this lifetime, the connection that the soul wants to feel in this lifetime to other beings. Um Oh, I love your work so much. Do you ever do retreats or anything? Because I'd love to come out to just spend time with you sometime. Tell everybody where they can find your new book, Willing Wild Wise, and where they can find you online.
Yeah. Wild Willing Wise is now in all bookstores and online. And I have two websites, warriorgoddess.com. So that's the main website. And then the book, wildwillingwise.com, where all the tour information, and there's a lot of extra bonuses with the book. I did audio with each of like visualizations for people to journey to each of the qualities of wild, willing, wise. There's some really beautiful like bonuses for the book. So that's where they can find that.
Yay. Oh, that's so amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the beautiful work that you put out into this world.
Thanks so much, Julie. So great to talk to you.
Yay, you too. Okay. If this podcast aligns with you and you feel called to work with me, thank you. Your support keeps this Angel podcast alive. Here are 3 ways to work with me. Book a session with me to hear directly from your angels and loved ones. Or my angel membership helps you connect with your angels, embrace your purpose, and build unshakable confidence. Like learning to read or ride a bike, you're going to gain skills that last forever, knowing who you are, why you're here, and direction that lasts a lifetime. Or my Angel Reiki School offers certification in mediumship, energy healing, and angel messaging while showing you how to master your gifts and start a successful spiritual business. Now, I want you to pause, and ask them, how can I serve as an earth angel today? What guidance do you have for me right now? How will you let me know you're near? And allow your angels to support you all day. Friends, I'll see you at the Angels and Awakening podcast here every Monday and Thursday. And thank you for listening. You're my angel.